She said she wanted to get drunk and forget tennis ever happened. 3 days later, a 21-year-old, she beat one round further than her, walked into a presidential palace and got handed an honor that only 2 other Filipino athletes in history have ever received. And nobody in the mainstream sports media connected these 2 moments happening in the exact same week. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand why one player chose a beach in Greece and another chose a palace in Manila, and why that choice might be the most telling stat of the entire 2026 tennis season. Before we go further, I need you to do one thing for me. If you have ever felt like an underdog, if you have ever been told you were too early, too young, too unproven, hit that subscribe button right now, because this story is proof that patience gets paid, and I promise you, what happens in the next few minutes is going to make you glad you did not scroll past this one. Let's set the scene. Wimbledon 2026, the world's biggest tennis stage. Aryna Sabalenka walks in as the top-ranked woman on the planet. She has spent the entire year telling Grand Slam organizers they owe the players more money. She cut a press conference short in Paris during a prize money protest. She and Coco Gauff even floated the idea of boycotting a slam entirely. She was publicly asked whether wearing expensive diamonds while lecturing tournaments about fair pay felt hypocritical. This is a woman with a platform, a cause, and the ranking to back it up. Then Wimbledon actually starts, and Sabalenka loses to Naomi Osaka. She drops the first set 6-2 and loses the match in 3. She walks into the interview room afterward and says on the record that she just wants to go get completely drunk, forget about everything, and try to get into better shape. Asked how she was feeling, her answer was 2 words: no emotions. Within days, she is on a beach in Greece with her fiancé, posting vacation photos while the tournament she just criticized for underpaying players continues without her. Now here is where the story turns, and this is the part almost nobody put together in real time. 1 round later, on that exact same draw, a 21-year-old from the Philippines named Eala is still out there on the grass, and she is carrying an entire nation with her. But to understand why this moment matters so much, you need to see the road she walked to get there round by round, because every single one of these results builds towards something bigger, and I promise the ending is worth the wait. Round 1, Eala beats Zarazu in straight sets, no drama, business done quickly. Round 2, she drops the first set to Maya Joint, then wins 12 of the next 14 games to close it out. That result alone makes her the first Filipino player to win a main draw match at Wimbledon in the entire Open era. Let that sink in for a second. An entire era of tennis history, and she is the first to do it. Round 3 is where things get impossible to ignore. Her opponent is a defending Wimbledon champion, a top 3 seed in the world. Eala takes her out in a tiebreak in the first set, then closes the match in the second. This is not a fluke scoreline. This is a dismantling. And here's the receipt that proves it. The defending champion herself walks into her press conference afterward and admits on record that it was hard for her to accept how many of her own slow serves came back as misreturns. Read between the lines on that quote. She is not saying she played badly. She is saying Eala's variety, her craft, her tennis brain beat her. That is not a concession a champion hands out easily. While all of this is happening on center court, while Roger Federer himself is sitting in the stands watching her play, Sabalenka is already booking flights. The beach photos hit multiple outlets the very same week Eala is grinding through 3-set battles against players ranked far above her. Same tournament, same round, same news cycle. One player is heading toward a resort. The other is heading toward a palace. And I want you to hold on to that image, because it is about to become literal. Eala's run eventually ends in a round of 16 against Jasmine Paolini, a tight 3-set battle, where she takes the first set, fights back hard, but ultimately falls in the third. It is a loss, technically. But listen to what she says at the microphone afterward, because this is a sentence that tells you everything about who this player actually is. She says the only thing she can control is how she approaches these situations, and if she can approach them with bravery, a steady mind, and intensity, then she can look back with no regret. Write that down, because 7 days later, those words are going to matter more than anyone in that press room could have predicted. Now here comes the moment that turns a tennis result into a national headline. 3 days after Wimbledon ends, on July 13th, 2026, the president of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., stand beside Eala inside Malacanang Palace, with her parents Mike and Rizza right there next to her, and formally confers on her presidential citation, live on national television. This is the same category of state recognition previously given to Manny Pacquiao and Olympic gold medalist Hidilyn Diaz. Two names that took an entire boxing career and an Olympic gold medal to earn that kind of honor. Eala earned it at 21 years old, off the back of a single Wimbledon run. And the president does not just hand her a piece of paper and move on. He looks at her, in front of her parents, in front of the entire country watching, and says she never fails to remind everyone that she is Filipina. He tells her that what she did showed the whole world what a Filipino athlete is all about. And at that podium, Eala responds with 4 words a nation had been waiting years to hear a Filipino tennis player say on any kind of world stage, "I am proud to be Filipino." Here is a detail that actually proves how real this moment was. Days later, a major Filipino fact-checking outlet had to publish a clarification because so many clickbait pages were misreporting the name of the award, calling a special presidential award instead of its correct title, a presidential citation. Think about that for a second. The moment was significant enough that people needed to fact-check the name of the honor itself. That is not something that happens for a minor headline. That happens when a country is paying very, very close attention. And now let's talk about the number, because this is a receipt that makes the whole story impossible to argue with. The same week as that palace ceremony, the WTA updated Eala's official career earnings on her own player page to $1,285,330. That is not a media estimate. That is not a fan calculation on social media. That is the sport's own governing body printing that figure for the entire world to see. On the same page tennis insiders use to track every player on tour. And here is what makes that number even heavier. Every single dollar was earned without a Grand Slam feeder system behind her, without a National Tennis Federation writing checks the way European federations do for their prospects. Southeast Asia does not have that infrastructure. She built this number the hard way, tournament by tournament, and the record now says so permanently. There is one more receipt, and it might be the most interesting one of all, because it comes from Sabalenka's own mouth from before any of this happened. In an earlier interview, the world number 1 herself had publicly praised Eala's dedication in practice. She said herself, long before the palace ceremony, long before the 7-figure milestone, long before the beach photos, she knew exactly who Eala was. She just did not expect to be watching the payoff from a beach chair in Greece, while the player she once complimented walked into a presidential palace. So where does this actually go from here? Because this story is not finished, and I need you to stay with me for this part, because the next few weeks might set up the biggest collision of the summer. Eala opens her North American hardcourt season at the Wimbledon City Open in Washington, D.C., starting July 27th. Sabalenka begins defending her Cincinnati Open title on August 7th. If both players keep winning through the summer, every scheduling path points toward the same destination. The U.S. Open Series, on hard courts, with everything that happened this July sitting behind them like a loaded storyline. The world number 1 against the world number 28. Except this time, it will not just be a tennis match. It will be a beach chair against the palace podium, replayed under Arthur Ashe Stadium lights. Before you go, here's the question I want you to answer in the comments, because I genuinely want to know what you think. When Eala and Sabalenka finally do meet on a hard court this summer, in D.C. and Cincinnati, or at the U.S. Open itself, who wins and in how many sets? Lock in your prediction now, before the draws even come out, because if you call it correctly, you get to say you saw it coming before anyone else did. And if you've been following this story since the Zarazua match, since that tiebreak against the defending champion, since the moment Roger Federer sat in those stands, you already know this is only the beginning of something much bigger. Subscribe, turn on notifications, because when this rematch happens, you're not going to find out about it after the fact.